This Monero Matteo video is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Safely store, send, receive, and trade your Monero on Cake Wallet on Android and iOS. Dun dun! Monero Matteo, welcome back. Good to be with you guys today. So we're talking about another bullish case for Monero. What else is new? Everyone's freaking out in crypto land, man. They're like, oh my gosh, they're coming after the unhosted wallets. They're making it so that we got to identify where we're going to be sending our crypto. Yeah, did you think that wasn't going to happen? Seriously. I mean, if you watch this channel, you're just so ahead of the curve that when you see stuff like this, you forget that this is news to people. Like the unrealized capital gains taxes. It's just like people are freaking out again. And we're like, oh, you didn't see that coming? It's crazy, right? Like the whole thing of the unrealized capital gains tax is it's like they've been printing money for many, many years. They've been indebting the country for many, many years. It's not just the country, it's the entire world. I think the tally is up to $300 trillion globally for debt. And so basically what they've been doing for generations now is they've been indebting the unborn. I mean, the people born into this world, the children, are yoked with trillions upon trillions of dollars of debt that they can never pay back. And then, of course, they get thrown into, these rip-off colleges where, they get a worse education than they otherwise would have gotten if they went to wizardry school, if they went to Hogwarts, right? And then they come out with like $100,000 in debt, right? And so it's like if you can see that happening, but yet you're surprised that they want to tax you on money you haven't earned yet, then I still don't know where your dissonance is coming from, because you've got some to deal with. You have to understand where these people are coming from that rule over you. They want your mind, they want your body, they want your soul, they want your freedoms, they want everything. They want to control it all. That's what this is all about. And so, yes, they want to tax money you haven't earned yet. They want to make it so that you have zero privacy at all when it comes to just about anything, much less your crypto. So them cracking down on the unhosted wallet, seriously, if this is a surprise to you. So, again, this is why we have the positions that we do. You guys are ahead of the curve, and we're going to continue to be ahead of the curve, and our master thesis is playing out as we anticipate. So let's just get into the content, guys. Let's see what's going on. And thank you guys for continuing to support the channel. I see the donations coming in. If you want to leave a private super chat, you can send some Monero through the Cake Wallet. Love the Cake Wallet, sponsor the channel, which actually just linked up with Haven recently. And so we're going to have to do some news updates on that. That's great. Haven's been doing very well. I mean, Haven got down to like $1, I think, when it really got into its bear mode, but now it's at about 7.5. So we've gotten a little bit of appreciation there, but of course that was after like a big leg down after the last issue that they had. They've had many issues, which is why I've talked a little bit less about it. I still hope for the best in regards to the project, but it is finicky. It's very risky. So one thing I'm looking forward to now that Darrow is out on the mainnet is for private stablecoins on that platform to make an entrance. And they're going to be collateralized. They're not going to be algorithmic as they are with Haven. So it should be interesting to have some competition in the market, to give people some options. That's good. And I also want to thank my patrons who are still checking us out and supporting the channel. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Lutz. Thank you, Ronan. And Ken, I believe, is the last one. If you want to become a patron, go ahead. And I know that we're kind of on and off with the video, so I'm not going to blame you. But if you want to do like a private super chat again, you can just send a message through Pirate Chain, which you can do. You can do private messages through the blockchain, which is pretty cool. You can send a tip at the same time, and then we'll give you a shout out. So that's just to note that. And thank you, everyone else, for the support. Let's go into the content. UK Monero, a big support of the channel. Thank you, Monero UK. They say the UK has banned crypto ATMs this month. On board those around you. Share and spend and tip. Great. So let's get into that a little bit, because we've talked about ATMs a little bit here, crypto ATMs. There's some weird stuff kind of going on with them. I've told you guys to kind of be suspicious of them, but I didn't know that they were going to just crack down on them and make them go away. So that's something that's news to me. But the UK FCA orders operators to shut down crypto ATMs. They say any crypto ATMs in the UK are operating illegally, according to the financial watchdog. Now let's kind of check this out a little bit, because it looks like in general the Europeans are cracking down more on crypto, and that'll play into our next story. But we've seen crackdowns here in the States. We've seen crackdowns, of course, in China, and regulatory capture like you have no idea in Russia. And so as the CBDC gets closer and closer to rollout, which will probably be preceded by a crisis, mind you, then we can expect more of this activity, more of a crackdown on the non-CBDCs, and they're going to create an incentive structure that makes it attractive to go into the CBDCs, whether it's the liquidity, whether it's the benefits that you get. Maybe you get a premium for the crypto that you trade in for the CBDC. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to figure out a way. Maybe you get credits for food. Resources are going into a shortage now. Supply chains are continuing to break down, so maybe the entire world just turns into one giant welfare state, in which case you need to get your credits from the central bank in order to get the resources that you need, because we go into like a global communist technocratic type of situation, which is the direction we're going in, but maybe it gets to that point. I don't know. Am I still recording? Did I ever start? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's check this out. The UK's Financial Conduct Authority has warned that any crypto ATMs operating in the country are illegal, must be shut down. Operators must be registered with the FCA to offer ATM services and comply with money laundering regulations, which are becoming more stringent by the day in regards to crypto, as none of the 27 fully registered crypto firms have been approved to offer ATM services. Any crypto ATMs in the UK are operating illegally. So that's quite something. That's quite something. So there are only 81 Bitcoin ATM/tellers in the UK. I see them actually increasingly in the States. I went to a gas station the other day. They had one of these big neon-lit Bitcoin things on the outside, and you go in, there's a Bitcoin ATM there, which is pretty interesting. So we're not seeing that in the States, but apparently that's what's going on in the UK. So we'll see what goes on with this. Just a crackdown's going on. That's from the CoinDesk. Thank you, CoinDesk. Written by Jamie Crowley. Cool. Let's move on to the big news of the day, which people are freaking out about. This is from Unstoppable Finance, Unstoppable DeFi. Unfortunately, the EP committees have voted in favor of the TFR passages that crack down on individual privacy and wallets. The amendments are huge in regards to a setback for crypto in the EU and should be repealed. In the tree logs, there are some examples of worrisome real-world consequences. He links to somebody else. Transactions between unhosted, quote-unquote, wallets and exchanges would become way more costly and burdensome. Coinbase would be required to collect, store, and verify the personal information of the owner of the receiver wallet, who is not even their customer. So there's going to be an initiative now legally to tell the authorities who you're sending your money to off the exchange. So there's going to be more of an incentive for people who want to be private in order to get your money from non-KYC sources, right? But even then, who knows where you're getting that from if you're not using a KYC source, because people trust the crypto that they're getting from KYC sources because the crypto that they're getting in most cases isn't fungible and sometimes can be tainted, which is one of the big problems with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many of these other coins that we talk about. And if that's the case, then private individuals themselves, if they're not going to want to use a centralized KYC exchange, they're going to have to figure out how to check the coins that they're getting to make sure that they're not tainted, and so that they can get coins, which if they need the liquidity in a national currency that they need to pay their tax with, or they need to pay vendors with, or whatever, bills, then they can go onto the exchange to sell that for the cash, or just somebody else, because not everyone's going to want tainted Bitcoin. Very few people will, right, because of the liquidity problem. So that is going to be something to consider. And I made a tweet the other day. I don't have it pulled up, but one of the biggest considerations in regards to the fungibility problem with Bitcoin is blacklisting of UTXOs or coins by governments. Now, that is a problem indeed, but the problem is more severe than that, I think. It's not just you have to worry about governments blacklisting this stuff. You've got to worry about individuals, communities, corporates who have these data analytical tools or just have these relationships with these blockchain analytical companies using this stuff and then being able to determine your coins to be less valuable than the fair market price or not valuable at all. So that is something to consider, because we're seeing more and more tribalism in the world and in our ever more diverse country and civilization. And so there is a concern that I have that if you have trackable and traceable currency and these data analytical tools are becoming ever more integrated into the ecosystem and more people can have access to these tools easily, then you could have your cryptos discriminated against because you have unpopular opinions, because of what you say on social media. And it doesn't have to be the government that does this. Remember, this can be anybody who maybe just has it out for you or whoever you associate with or whoever shares your ideas. And as social media gets ever more linked up with crypto, as we're seeing with Jack Dorsey, who wants to integrate your Bitcoin wallet into Twitter and with other social media initiatives to onboard crypto. I think Zuckerberg, he's now on board with crypto. Then that's something even more to look out for. So all of this stuff leads to more transparency, which leads to more data emulating from the Bitcoin blockchain, which allows more of an integration of the knowledge of Bitcoin and just general blockchain analytical organizations. And they can create a bigger map that is all more encompassing, and your capacity to stay private is that much less, which means the value of your wealth is in that much more danger, especially given the unrealized capital gains thing we just talked about. Again, pay your taxes, disclaimer, disclaimer. But with everything going on, you can see the walls closing in, right? So moving on, as this is completely unfeasible, we expect that companies like Coinbase would only allow transfers to unhosted wallets linked to their own customers and verified through a private key signing, which makes these transfers more complicated and costly. Smaller crypto companies with fewer resources might even go so far as to not allow transfers to self-custody wallets anymore. So this is something to consider too, because we're starting to see the barriers of entry grow. We're starting to see in not only the exchange space, the virtual asset service provider space, but also in the mining space too. And we'll get to that here in a sec in regards to ESG making a move into the mining sector. Barriers of entry are going to grow. Smaller organizations, firms, or even individuals are going to be priced out or regulated out of the enterprise, which is going to leave the corporates who are more aligned with the interests of the powers that be, and you can have that much more concern regarding the censorlessness and the permissionless nature of Bitcoin and these other cryptos, of course. Does Monero have that problem? Not at all. So moving on. Furthermore, anytime you receive 1K euro or more from an unhosted wallet, providers like Coinbase would be required to report you and your data to AML authorities. Get excited. Imagine if your bank had to report you to the authorities for every wire transfer over 1K euro you receive. Yeah, that'd be crazy. And something to note, guys. I remember seeing this tweet on Twitter. This guy, he had commented as kind of like a joke: if you really don't like somebody, send some tainted Bitcoin to their Coinbase crypto wallet, and then their crypto account gets shut down at Coinbase or whatever major KYC exchange. That's the problem that we're running into here, right? Because you can't stop people from sending you crypto, and so if somebody doesn't like you, then what they can do is they can just send you tainted crypto. And then if you've got an account with one of these authorities, boom, you're going to get reported. And who knows? What if that crypto came from like a really nefarious source? Maybe these people are, doing computer hacking, or maybe they're sending money to the Russian military. I mean, who knows what's happening? But then that wallet gets blacklisted by the authorities. And then that Bitcoin from the blacklisted wallet or from the suspicious entity gets sent to your Coinbase account, and it's over 1,000 euros. Boom. You just had that reported to the government, and now you are definitely under the eye of Sauron. So that is something to consider. And if you've got stuff going on that you don't want the authorities to know, this is a huge risk, right? It's sort of like drunk driving. you don't have to concern yourself just with hitting somebody else when you're driving drunk, but somebody else hitting you. Because if somebody else hits you, then, you get into this complication, the cops come, and you could get breathalyzed because maybe it's your fault. Nobody knows. Maybe they lie. And so this is just increasing the risk premium that you have to take in order to have these surveillance cryptos. So just, again, compounding the super hyper mega bullish case for Monero. I mean, why would you want to deal with this crap? I just don't understand. Moving on. Overall, the FTR's reporting regime will create massive personal data honeypots, both within private crypto companies and government agencies. And we have seen ledgers get hacked, if I remember right. And not necessarily the ledger gets hacked and the crypto gets stolen, but the information, the personal information gets taken up and associated with the wallets. Then people find out who has what, and then they hold them at gunpoint or something like that. Like, that's happened. So that's something else you run into in regards to surveillance coins. People can figure out how much you got, and then people can come after you. And that's one thing that we actually did. We didn't actually go after them, but we looked up Stefan Molyneux's Bitcoin donation address. We were just curious. This was a long time ago. This was many, many months ago. But we looked at his website, freedomain.com, and we looked at his address that he had posted for donations. Then we took those addresses and we went to a blockchain tracking website, and we saw that his Bitcoin address for the last 9 years had taken in $50 million of Bitcoin. So if people know this kind of stuff, then people know that stuff, and then they can come after you because people think dangerously that their wealth is private in these blockchains. And if you realize that too late, there may be some things that befall you that you would otherwise not like. So that's something to consider. Moving on, that would result in your personal data, name, home address, etc., being linked to your public blockchain addresses and your entire on-chain transaction history. Boom, done. You're nuked at that point. And this is one thing that we've talked about in regards to Bitcoin and, of course, the surveillance coins, is that are there ways you could be more private with them? Sure. But if you mess up in one step of the duplicate number of steps, or the many number of steps, then you could get your entire trail released, and people know. And this has happened with dark web websites where somebody had bad OPSEC in regards to one Bitcoin transaction. Then that thread was pulled by the authorities, and then the marketplace got compromised and got shut down. So you make one mistake, it's all out there, it's all linked together, and they got you. That's what happened to Bitcoin Fog, and that's what's happened to the Bitfinex hacker bros, and that's what's happened over and over and over again to people. It happened to that one guy who had his Bitcoin mix 6 years prior in a Wasabi wallet, only to be linked back together because of other things that he had going on. He tried to use Grin, which is a privacy coin, but he didn't realize certain things about it, which didn't make it so private. Somehow that got linked back into his Bitcoin, which was then put back together. I mean, it's just crazy, guys. You gotta really know some stuff and have some nuance in how you use your Bitcoin if you want to use it privately, to the extent where it's just like, why don't you just use Monero? It's plug and play private. It's easy. You just send and go. That's it. You're private. So more people are going to realize the value of this stuff, especially as the risk gets higher and higher and higher for being private, and it's not a game anymore. Like, people don't feel that pressure right now. I don't think. They just think, oh, well, I'll just flip into my CoinJoin a little bit, I'll shuffle it through the Lightning Network, whatever. But when it really gets down to it, and you really got to make a risky transaction that you're not sure is going to get you flagged, you're going to feel that much more comfortable with Monero than Bitcoin, because you even see a lot of these people who talk about privacy with Bitcoin using submarine swaps or whatever they're talking about now. They still think to the back of their mind, I actually don't know if my Bitcoin's still private. I don't know if I'm compromised or not. With Bitcoin or with Monero, you have stealth addresses. You've got the ring signatures, and they're making it more private every day. I don't know if this upgrade has happened yet, but they're going to increase the ring size and give it more privacy, because that is the highest value in Monero. It's not the attendees. It's not the size of the transaction necessarily. It's the privacy. It's the fungibility. That is the number one value. And so in this context, with all this stuff going on, think to yourself, What would you rather hold? What would you rather have? So moving on, criminals would see exactly how much crypto you own and could start attacking you both virtually, hacking, phishing, and physically, robbery and kidnapping. Right. And they link to a Zero Hedge article talking about crypto expert ambushed, shot 5 times at a New York City hotel in an attempted robbery of his $450,000 watch. Now, I don't know if that's because he had his address out there and people knew how much crypto he had, or that he was a crypto expert. If you're a crypto expert, then you probably have a lot of crypto. Not this one, but, you know, or it could just be the $450,000 watch you're wearing. But nevertheless, that's something which has been documented. Like, people have had their personal identities linked up with how much crypto that they have, and then they get attacked, right? And again, as we talked about earlier, as data forensics gets more user-friendly and these tools can be easily adopted by individuals, then that's an even bigger concern you have to worry about. You know, maybe you just make an innocuous trade with somebody down the road. Maybe it's a homeless guy. I mean, I don't know. Homeless people taking Bitcoin. You know, I don't know. But, like, maybe he knows a little computer science. Maybe he's got, like, a little tracing tool. He looks in your wallet, sees how much you got, and then attacks you. I don't know. You got to think about this stuff. So moving on, apart from these very evident and dangerous consequences, these rules would be detrimental to financial freedom and inclusion, harder to self-custody, harmful to the competitiveness of the EU. Who cares? They're not competitive. They're doofuses over there. And negative with regards to law enforcement, AML, and consumer protection. Now, I don't understand what is meant by law enforcement, because if we look at Brian's statement here, who's the CEO of Coinbase, he makes the same statement, and I don't quite understand. He says the proposal is anti-innovation, anti-privacy, and anti-law enforcement. I'm not sure why it's anti-law enforcement necessarily. If anything, this helps law enforcement. So let's see if he says something else in the tweet. This is because more and more activities would take place in a purely P2P manner as bridges between centralized and decentralized players will be erected. So yeah, you're going to have a two-tiered blockchain, basically. Who wants to deal with that? Who wants to deal with that, bro? Ledger did a very good job listing these risks in greater details here. Let's check that out. I'm curious. This is a pretty big news story. If adopted, TFR would impose a vast financial surveillance regime on Europe. Well, guys, I mean, again, we've seen this coming for a long time. We're not surprised. Do you remember that one video that we did where we talked about how the EU was considering setting up a database that would be integrated into the Internet of Things, that would have all of your assets logged and input into? Like, the database would have a list of everybody's assets that they own. It wouldn't just be like gold. It wouldn't be like crypto. It would be like furniture that they have in their house. That would have like a microchip in there. That would be keeping track of like the valuations. Like, this is what's coming, guys. They want to surveil everything you've got. That's what the Internet of Things is all about. I mean, I've been reading articles of how they're going to be putting chips into gold and silver now in order to, can you guess it, prevent fraud. That's why we have the watchtowers on the Lightning Network in order to watch the transactions going on. It's to prevent fraud. Everything is fraud prevention, guys. That's what they're going to say until you're literally like in a panopticonical vat, right? Like the Matrix. It's so you can be prevented from fraud. But yeah, this has been coming for a long time. TFR would impose a vast financial surveillance regime on Europe, stifle innovation, and undermine the self-hosted wallets that individuals use to securely protect their digital assets. This measure would also diminish the European capacity to seize the full potential of the blockchain revolution and offer a competitive advantage to other regions of the world. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the CBDC's coming. They're not about the blockchain revolution, dude. They have their own revolution going on. It's a global communist revolution, and anything that gets in the way of that, they're going to put a stop to. So as long as you get that, it's not a surprise. What can you do? Time is short. Yeah, nothing you can do. Buy Monero. That's what I would do. Don't try to reason with politicians, okay? Can people just stop this nonsense? It's not going to work. Although, you know, Monero does have their own outreach group that, you know, does dialogue with the European Union. I think Arctic Mine is on that group. So, you know, do what you can. Good luck. I am very pessimistic in your success. I don't think it's going to happen. But, yeah, and then people are saying, do something, do something. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. We're just sitting here pretty, guys. We're just chilling. Not worried about it. The European Parliament is a joke. Yep, I know. Everybody knows. It's just ridiculous what they're doing over there. I mean, they find themselves now in the most predictable energy crisis ever. I mean, how do you shut down 3 nuclear power plants? How do you shut off your coal-fired power plants? How do you be so antagonistic to the country which gives you 60% of your energy, literally, Russia, and think you can just waltz away? No. Welcome to reality. But who knows? People think that this is on purpose, right? Hey, John McAfee. I love you, John. I wish he was here, dude. John McAfee. All right, man. Let's move on to the next thing here. Brian Armstrong. Any more brightness on my laptop? Here we go. Or maybe I need to take shades off. Brian Armstrong. So he's got some comments on this as well. On March 31st, the EU Parliament will vote on his proposal for a new crypto surveillance regime. The latest draft by the Parliament treats crypto and every person who holds crypto differently from fiat. Every crypto transaction would be travel rule eligible, and this means before you can send or receive crypto from a self-hosted wallet, Coinbase will be required to collect, store, and verify information on the other party, which is not our customer, before the transfer is allowed. So, guys, it's going to turn into like a communist system where everyone's reporting each other to the authorities. So that's pretty crazy, right? So they're going to be doing surveillance on people that aren't even their customers. So that's something to note. And this just made me think, maybe it's dangerous to have a Bitcoin wallet. Maybe it's dangerous to have wallets in this atmosphere that people can send money to and get you honey trapped. You know what I mean? Because if somebody wants to get after you, all they would have to do in this circumstance is send you over $1,000 of tainted crap. And then you get submitted to the authorities, and then they look into you. I mean, am I not reading that correctly? Is that not a distinct possibility with what's going on here? If you are a political dissident and they don't like you, all they have to do is get somebody who they maybe already have in custody, or maybe some person which, you know, the CIA or MI6 or whatever is using for some nefarious activity in the Middle East. It's like a double agent. They're like maybe an Iranian, you know, insider, but they're also working for MI6, and they're kind of playing both ends. Maybe they get that Iranian bro, the revolutionary bro. What's that Iranian military thing called? IRGC or something like that. Maybe they get that, some Soleimani bro, to send you some Bitcoin. And then, boom, you're like associated with some terrorista. And then you get looked into. And maybe you've got some other things going on. And then you get January 6th. You get thrown in jail for doing almost nothing. But, you know, you're in there for a long time because maybe you tried to attack the country. Who knows, guys? Seriously. I mean, Arctic Mime, when we were doing an interview with him, he's like, yeah, I don't even want to hold Bitcoin. And he was telling us all these scenarios of people who were completely innocent but got caught up with stuff like what I just told you about, like people who wanted to attack the country or were terrorists. Like, you can get caught up with people like that and not even know it. And Adam Back has talked about himself, the Adam Back, like the Blockstream CEO, bro. He has said that Bitcoin's fungibility is worse than PayPal, but maybe you receive Bitcoin that comes from somebody on the Silk Road. He used that example. And that goes to your Coinbase account, or that goes to some other exchange account, or maybe you put that as collateral for your BlockFi loan. You know, you get your loan called back, you get your exchange account shut down, and maybe you get implicated with the authorities. That can happen, guys. And that's becoming an ever-increasing reality. Like, seriously, I don't even know if I want a surveillance coin wallet open. I don't even want my address out there. Maybe I'll just go totally Monero. You know what I mean? Maybe that's just like what you got to do now if you want to be totally safe. But if you guys see like some out to this, or you have a different perspective, let me know. I mean, as you guys know, I'm freaking paranoid, which is why I have Monero, and why I kind of have like this doomer mentality in regards to what I'm looking at here. I mean, I'm on average a pretty optimistic person, but you can't look at all this stuff and just be a Pollyanna and be like, oh, this is going great. It's not. Anyways, let's move on. Moreover, anytime you receive 1,000 euros or more in crypto from a self-hosted wallet, Coinbase will be required to report you to the authorities. This applies even if there is no indication of suspicious activity. So imagine if the EU required your bank to report you to the authorities every time you paid your rent, merely because the transaction is over 1,000 euros. Or if you sent money to your cousin to help with groceries, the EU required your bank to collect and verify private information about your cousin before allowing you to send the funds. How could the bank even comply? The banks would push back. That's what we're doing now. Well, the banks don't have to deal with this stuff because they're the banks. And they're the ones who are in control. It's actually the banks doing this to you. I hope you understand that, Brian. So this eviscerates all of the EU's work to be a global leader. Europe is not a global leader except for low IQ, self-destructive stupidity. That's what they're a global leader in. The leaders are the young global leaders who are working with this guy right here, Santa Claus. Yeah. My trend line looked pretty interesting. It actually still does. BlackRock and Klaus Schwab are trending on Twitter. Wow. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Who cares? Let's move on. I've got very few jokes today. Although there was something funny this morning. Ukraine, I guess, banned the letter Z. And I've been railing on Zcash a little bit on Twitter. And I was like, yeah, this is a bad week for Zcash. Banned in Ukraine. But yeah, that's as funny a joke as I got. Let's move on. Yeah, let's start talking a little bit about the crypto coup day talk going on right now. My energy just went from 100 to 0. Boom, let's get back up. So yeah, there's crypto coup d'etat going on. We've made some videos about this. We talked about MasterCard, the digital currency group. We have a series on it if you want to go check it out. But again, people are... Now, to some degree, I am surprised by this because I didn't think that there would actually be any possibility of the code changing for Bitcoin. I just had that as a given. I didn't think that changing the code would be possible, but we have talked about how the developers of Bitcoin are on like a list as far as what the Coin Bureau bro said. He said that there's like an MSCI list, which is the Morgan Stanley Capital Index list, which is sort of like this ESG ratings firm, which determines who can be invested in by the likes of Blackrock and other institutional investors based on how ESG compliant they are. They are, as individuals, on this list, which makes you think that maybe they've already gotten the knock on the door from the likes of Blackrock. And this is something which we can expect to see, a change in the Bitcoin code. And, of course, it's all about proof of work. And we saw this over in Europe, how the Europeans wanted to ban Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin in general, I think, because it was proof of work, it was environmentally unfriendly, and all this crap, right? Which I think they voted against recently. So there's one win that the Bitcoin bros did get out of Europe, but they'll be back. Guys, they'll be back. They tried unrealized capital gains here. We told you they'd be back. Now they're back trying to do it. They have a goal. They're going to get to it. If they don't get it, they're going to try and try again. So, yeah, that's going to be making a comeback. And given that this is the most recent news in regards to that initiative, the campaign's only going to continue from here. But let's just check this out. And by the way, Ethereum has been ahead of the curve. They saw this coming. And Ethereum, of course, is like piled in by insiders. It's a very globalist of crypto. They made the move from proof of work to proof of stake. And I think they're still going through the transition. It's taken a while because they want to be regulatory compliant and they don't want to be under the scrutiny of the authorities, which are all about ESG now. But Chris Larson, who is a Ripple bro, executive chairman of Ripple. Isn't it great Monero has no executive chairmen, no government leadership? He says, last year I published an op-ed calling for Bitcoin to consider a move away from POW to a low-energy validation method. Today I'd like to share an update on how my thinking has evolved on this front. While I still believe moving to a low-energy consensus mechanism is the most climate-friendly long-term solution, I recognize it's no easy feat. Today, and this is interesting, this is worth noting, today the U.S. hosts 40% of the hash rate climate-conscious miners like Griffin Mining, Argo Blockchain, and Riot Blockchain. And mind you, Riot Blockchain, I did some research. Blackrock has about a 6 to 7% stake in Riot Blockchain. They're big investors in Riot. And Marathon, by the way, Marathon Digital Holdings, which is a Canadian, I believe, Blackrock or a Bitcoin miner. And recall that Marathon was the mining firm which had integrated with OFAC in regards to their blacklist. They had made their pools OFAC compliant. Now they later reversed on that, but again, they're going to be they're going to be back. There's going to be more initiatives to do this, especially because Russia seems to be adopting Bitcoin and maybe using it for oil payment. I mean, that would be boom, OFAC compliant pools happening ASAP. Strive to use 100% renewables and be responsible actors. Yeah, BlackRock's very responsible. Shutting off power when grids are overloaded. I applaud their efforts. Yeah, so that's going on, bro. That's going on. And a lot of this hash rate, guys, is 40%, which, by the way, is more than enough to censor transactions. You don't need 50%, which is commonly thought. You can have 10, 20%. There's been work done on this. We've talked about it a lot, but a lot of this is corporate miners. And how easy would it be in order for there to be an initiative to set up OFAC-compliant mining pools or just mining pools, which, I mean, guys, we've seen PayPal, we've seen Patreon, we've seen GoFundMe, we've seen all these financial companies discriminate against certain groups of people, namely conservatives, Christians, etc. But even other people have been thrown into a discrimination camp. What would it take for these corporations to say, hey, you know what, we're not going to mine your Bitcoin if you are associated with this ideology, this group of people, that activity, etc.? And how successful would they be in censoring your transactions? Question that I have. I mean, maybe you'd have to pay a higher premium if you want to use the Bitcoin blockchain because you can't find someone to mine your transaction as easily. You have to pay a higher amount in order to incentivize, you know? Or maybe you just can't do it at all because some game theory thing kicks in. But moving on the other hand, plenty of miners are repurposing old coal and gas plants and not being responsible stewards of the amount of power they're increasingly using, jacking up energy bills for residents, sucking power from the grid, regardless of overload. This is unacceptable. Or, Chris, we could start up nuclear power. How about that? Or we could reestablish the Keystone Pipeline. Maybe we could drill more oil. I don't know. Maybe we could just have more power. Is that a problem? But, yep, we're just going to shut off the power, and we're going to make do with less power by destroying the proof of work system, which decentralizes the system and doesn't make it so a bunch of oligarchs hold the power, and move it over to, well, a more oligarchical system like proof of stake. Moving on, the time for change is now, as prominent capital market participants drive crypto liquidity, ESG, and sustainability will only become more front and center. Oh, with BlackRock behind the scene, of course it will. And he says something interesting coming up here. I'll show you. Ethereum, the second largest market cap for now, recognized this early on and is very close to switching to POS. So he just said exactly what we've been saying. He just came out and said it. He said, yep, Ethereum and the Ether bros saw that there's going to be an ESG crackdown soon. They saw that this environmental stuff was going to play a distinct role in the adoption of crypto, and so they moved to proof of stake. Now, was it for any other reason? That's questionable. Now, they have ridiculously high gas prices. Maybe that's one reason to justify the move, but maybe it was for adoption purposes in the new world that is concerned about ESG, or at least that's what they say. It's really just a front for more power consolidation, but that could be what's going on. We need to Chris goes on to say we need short-term solutions as well, even if a move away from proof of work happened eventually. Bitcoin is and will remain hugely important for crypto globally. Bitcoiners, I know many of you may not believe this, but I am not trying to work against you here. Oh, doesn't he just sound so nice, guys? He sounds so trustworthy, Chris. Today's crypto industry is blessed with incredible talent. And mind you, this guy's been working with banksters and globalistas for many years now. Co-founder and executive chairman of Ripple. Do you guys know the kind of circles that this guy probably hangs around in? Ripple is invested in by the Digital Currency Group, which is invested in by MasterCard. Ripple has worked with global central banks. Ripple is like an insider globalista coin. And if you watch this channel, you probably know that. But to those who don't know, it's very centralized, and it's the bankster coin, right? So just know that Chris is not trying to work against you here. He believes in the libertarian world utopia, which is on the other side of Bitcoin adoption, hyper-Bitcoinization. Of course, today's crypto industry is blessed with incredible talent. And key point here, unlimited capital. Now, where does this unlimited capital come from? BlackRock, anybody? Who has $10 trillion of assets under management? And Vanguard, who, by the way, is also getting into Bitcoin mining quite significantly. They have trillions of more dollars. Fidelity, trillions of more dollars. That's what he means by unlimited capital. Right. So they've got all the money in the world, and if they want to continue to take over the Bitcoin mining operations, they can do it. And if they see Bitcoin as a true threat, that's what they're going to do. And they're going to co-opt the stuff to where it's just like a slightly better version of PayPal. So that's something to consider. Monero, please. I truly believe it can turn this climate problem into a solution. Guys, there's no climate problem. It's just such crap. It's all crap. I mean, we've done videos on this. We've done very long videos on this. Go check it out. It's all a plot to establish global communism. That's what it's all about. It's like the whole watermelon thing. It's like green on the outside, red on the inside. It's all about global control. It's the new eugenics program. That's what it is. They want to control human population, and I'm not going to get into all that. There's so much to go into, but I truly believe it can turn this climate problem into a solution. What if miners were incentivized to remove carbon from the atmosphere? Is that done with proof of work? Let's see what he goes on to say. Miners pledging 100% green energy to use is a great start, but in my opinion, not a foolproof long-term solution, because proof of work simply incentivizes funding the cheapest energy, not what is the right thing to do. So he's instilling a moral quality to this argument here, which is it is immoral to pollute the environment by using Bitcoin and mining Bitcoin. And therefore, if we want to be morally righteous, we've got to turn Bitcoin into a proof of work system. That seems to be the argument here. So they're going to say you're killing the planet, you're killing humanity if you're using Bitcoin. That's what's coming next. What's to stop a petro-state like Russia? Oh, here we go. Russia. The Ruskies are back, guys. The Ruskies are back. What's to stop a petro-state like Russia from liquidating fossil fuel reserves? So even with the responsible players, there will always be an incentive to seek out the greatest amount of cheapest power if renewables are prioritized / wanted and fossil fuels not, could suddenly turn the latter into a subsidized cheap energy source. Oh, man. Just makes me sick. Lastly, I want to emphasize that these efforts are mine alone. Why do you feel like you have to say that? First off, I mean, obviously there is a conflict of interest here, given that he is the chairman of Ripple. If Bitcoin fails, he stands to gain a lot, because people just think of crypto as crypto. They don't, in many cases, dig into the details, unfortunately, of what differentiates the crypto. So if Bitcoin loses a lot of value, or just gets co-opted in general, well, a lot of people may see Ripple as an alternative solution, and then, you know, boom, he wins. So there's a conflict of interest thing there, but also this guy's a globalista bankster, bro. So I don't trust him. This guy's like, what a great idea. Dude, AstroTurf much? Who's funding this stuff? So yeah, there's that. And let's piece some other things together, guys. Let's piece some other things together. The 22, I just learned about Bitcoin. I'm here to fix it. Starter pack, Greenpeace, Blackrock, and others. Well, guys, they have the capital to figure this stuff out, right? And they have the capital to, lay down the law to a pretty significant degree. I mean, they already do with the entire world. You don't think that they can do it with Bitcoin? People need to kind of wake up and see what they're up against here. These are very powerful forces. This says we know who wields influence over the crypto community, from big tech to big banks. Leaders like Elon Musk of Tesla, Jack Dorsey of Block, and Abby Johnson of Fidelity have vested interest in Bitcoin and the power to affect change. BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, PayPal, and many others have a responsibility to clean up Bitcoin. We call on leaders in tech and finance to use their power to stop Bitcoin from wasting hours. Wasting our power? Is that what that means to say? Yeah. And interesting thing here, BlackRock ETF holds 384 million shares of Bitcoin mining firms, or $384 million of shares. Now, let's look into what mining firms they hold and who else is getting in on the action. So this is from cryptopost.info. SEC filings reveal that BlackRock has invested almost $400 million into Riot Blockchain and Marathon Digital holding stock. So they're getting deep into this stuff, right? Filings submitted by the $9 trillion multinational investment manager BlackRock reveal the firm has made significant investments in two leading publicly traded Bitcoin mining firms. So they have about 6.7% stake in Marathon Digital and 6% stake in Riot Blockchain. So that's a good bit, right? That's a good bit. Yeah. Wow, that's quite... over 12 months, Marathon has surged 750%, and Riot has gained 850%. Wow, those are some gains, dude. But check this out. Fidelity Group and Vanguard Group among the large firms obtaining significant exposure to the Bitcoin mining sector in recent months. And Vanguard is the other huge international investment firm, which is the only one to really rival BlackRock. But if you look at their relationship with each other, it's basically the same entity with one consciousness and one goal for the planet and its takeover. So there's a little bit more to talk about this. You could check this article out. This is by the Star. Insight how BlackRock made ESG the hottest ticket on Wall Street. And we've talked about Kevin O'Leary doing a talk with Peter McCormick from What Bitcoin Did. And they had talked about how basically BlackRock is in charge of determining who lives and who dies in the corporate investment world. And they're actually the ones behind the scenes who were encouraging Elon Musk to not accept Bitcoin anymore for the Teslas because Bitcoin was not quote-unquote ESG. You remember when Elon Musk like a year ago did like a total 180? He's like, oh, no, never mind. We're not going to accept Bitcoin anymore. It's not environmentally friendly. Here's some ways that we can improve the environmentally friendly thing. And then he flipped into like Dodge or something like this. He was looking for like environmentally friendly tokens. And then I think Nano went nuclear at that point. And everyone started to look into the newest ESG nice coins. Well, that was BlackRock and other entities like BlackRock behind the scenes pretty much giving the whisper in the ear, hey, you can't go off the script like that. We're in charge. We're going to take your money if you don't do as we say and be environmentally friendly, which, by the way, when it comes to ESG, it's not so much about the E as it is about the S and G. It's not about the environment as much as it's about the social and governmental elements of this stuff. And so BlackRock having as much money as it has and as much influence as it has, and corporates getting that much more involved with Bitcoin mining, you can anticipate that this movement here is only going to continue. BlackRock is a leader in this, and we are seeing the flows, and I continue to see the big shift in investor portfolios, says Fink. Well, it's because he's behind it. And it says here, Fink, the chief executive officer of BlackRock, declared that the fundamental reshaping of global capitalism was underway and that his firm would lead it by making it easier to invest in companies with favorable environmental and social policies. So, yeah, there you go. BlackRock's making a move. And these are the guys who are taking significant stake in Bitcoin's future. So, with all this going on, and with other things that we've talked about, we're continuing to see more interest on the behalf of Bitcoin bros and the crypto space in general in Monero. And if you look at the comments that are had by this Andreas Antonopoulos tweet, who we've talked a little bit about recently, because back in 2017, he was making a lot of comments about Bitcoin's problem with fungibility, the problem with Bitcoin mining centralization, which is what we just talked about, and how that create blacklists and censor transactions, and how that, according to Andreas himself, said it would be a destructive event for Bitcoin. There are people who are starting to kind of revolt. And if you look at all the comments, they're like, yeah, Monero is much better, as this guy says. And people are posting charts and everything like this. We will get there when the world understands privacy is important. Then the infrastructure will be built. Hashtag XMR. Yeah, and weirdly enough, Andreas is talking about anonymity sets with Bitcoin. The more transactions, the more anonymous. I don't know where he gets this stuff from. Like, he made this argument that the more liquidity something has, the more privacy there is by default. Now, to a certain degree, I can agree with you, but with Monero, it's private by default no matter what the liquidity is. Now, you do get in a bigger anonymity set the more transactions there are, because you get more transactions which are, put into these rings and that kind of thing. But that is sort of like a cope, and you can kind of tell that he's trying to defend a losing position. And I get the feeling he knows it's a losing position. I feel like he's got kind of like an emotional tie with Bitcoin, and he doesn't speak negatively necessarily about Monero. He's just a Bitcoin bro. That's the flag that he flies. But if you look at these comments here, check it out. Privacy is a right. You don't have to live in an authoritarian country to have privacy. It's your data. You should decide who has it. Bitcoin doesn't provide that, full stop. XMR, regardless of liquidity, does. There's no argument to be made here. Monero Pot says, I don't think this guy understands privacy. And let's check out the video, because you'll be able to see just crypto bros in full revolt. But let's check out his video.
An interesting
first.
Comment from Ian. BTC is a store of value. If you want privacy, use Monero.
It's not a store of value.
I would agree 99% with what you said. For really, really strong privacy, Monero is much better. However, and this is a counter-argument that is a valid counter-argument, because Bitcoin is a store of value,
Bro, why does he look like Brian Stelter? Do you guys get Brian Stelter vibes looking at this? I like Andres. I shouldn't judge like that.
Has more liquidity. Because it has more liquidity, more value, and broader acceptability, and is easier to exchange, it's more useful as a currency, and therefore it also means...
So he would also, I guess, argue that the dollar is more useful as a currency because it has more liquidity and it's accepted in more places. I don't see the liquidity argument as being valid. And if it is valid, then your goal should be to provide more liquidity to something like Monero rather than something faulty like Bitcoin, because you don't want to scale something which isn't fundamentally sound, or at least isn't optimally fundamentally sound, right? So that's just a comment I want to make.
So that it's used by more people, which means the anonymity set is much bigger. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, right? The specialist coin gives you better privacy, but in a slightly smaller anonymity set with slightly less liquidity and slightly fewer places where you can use it. The store value coin gives you, Bitcoin gives you not as good privacy.
I'm sorry, I just can't keep looking at that picture, dude. I can't do it. Let's just read the comments. That is not a valid counter argument. You are answering a question that wasn't asked. If the person, excuse me, if the question is, should you use Monero for privacy, the answer is yes, just yes. If you are even asking that question, it's a safe assumption that the user has the option of choosing Monero or not, or they wouldn't have asked if they should use it. The liquidity is irrelevant as long as, one, it's accepted as a form of payment for a transaction, or two, you have the necessary value in Monero to complete the transaction. If the transaction value you need is to transfer, okay, well, XMR, baby, one of the very few fungible currencies, sadly, unlike Bitcoin. Props to you that bring this to the forefront, Andreas. You should use Monero for everything. So basically, if you live in the US, UK, or EU, living under a neoliberal dictatorship, then Monero is a great choice. Based. Love it. The fungibility and privacy of Monero are superior to Bitcoin forever. The liquidity of Bitcoin is superior to Monero for now. Stay nimble and diversified for now. Good comments, man. These are base comments, bros. Well, now I'm going to start stacking Monero too then. Nice, dude. Andreas making them sales, dude. Andreas, you're fighting a nasty dictatorship. Canada. Yeah. Shout out to Zap, General Zap, for getting the Bitcoin bros to take Monero. How awesome was that, right? In the trucker convoy event. Or get the trucker bros to take Monero. I'm getting tired. I got to get off. It is 10:45 here. I need to wake up early. Tax day, tomorrow and every day, until the end. I'm really sad I can't make it to Monerotopia. I was really looking forward to that. But we got to do taxes. That's the deal. Is Monero better for privacy? Yeah, we just talked about that. Anything else to talk about? I think that's it. There's some news in regards to Haven, interlinking with Cakewallet. I think we talked about that, though. Is there anything else? New tab? No, I think that's it. Good, because I'm tired. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen, as to why Monero is awesome, the best? I don't think so. Oh my gosh, we went on for an hour? The time just flies by. Time just flies by when you're making the super hyper mega bullish case for Monero. That's it, guys. I have no rounding arguments, no conclusions to be made. I think that's all I want to say. It's just more of the same. More of the same. We keep getting the same message out there, but it's good to just get refreshers in regards to the context and the things going on in the world and how it plays into our super hyper mega bullish case for Monero. So that's it, Monero Matteo. Check out the social media links below, and follow me on social media, Gab, Odyssey especially. I love the comments that I get on Odyssey. I get really, really key and base comments on Odyssey. I love it, and I respond to them all. So although I'm not as active over there as I am on YouTube, for whatever reason, it's just easier to go on YouTube. It's just more natural. I still do come back and look at them. And I really do like the Odyssey Bros. And check out the donation addresses below for all of our favorite private cryptos. And with that being said, you guys have a lovely day. God bless. See you next time.